Thanks for joining us again on GBGuns for another tabletop review. And what we've got here is something quite a bit different thanks to the folks at Classic Firearms. As you know, I'm a fan of the stuff that's odd and different, so that's why we've got a VZ52 chambered in 7.62 by 4.5 coming up next on GBGuns. So this is an interesting piece of post-World War II early Soviet life in Czechoslovakia, now the Czech Republic. As you know, the movement went away from bolt action to semi-autos in the search for an intermediate cartridge, and the Czechs didn't want 7.6239, the AK and SKS round, didn't want 7.6251, of course, 308 being a NATO round. They came up with 4.5. So you've got a little more case volume than your AK, a little less than a 308, 131 grain bullet, much lighter than 308, slightly heavier than 7.6239. Pretty cool cartridge, and they developed this rifle to shoot it. These were only made, as far as I know, between 1952 and 1957. Some of them were later converted to fire 7.6239. This one, however, fires the original cartridge, which is still out there. Ammo can be found. At the time of filming this, it comes out to around 50 cents a shot. So not terrible, but not cheap either. Kind of like 300 Blackout, if you will. In this tabletop, I wanted to show you some of the uniqueness of this cool piece. And yeah, it's got plenty of dings and scratches, but that's what gives these old military surplus guns their character. Starting off on the tip, we have a threaded muzzle device. This is just the thread protector, and you can see it's got some teeth on here. That's because the original front sight hood also served to ratchet that down. We're missing that, so this can indeed come loose on you. I don't know what the thread pitch is, but I don't have anything that could handle this round supersonic anyways, so I'm not too worried about it. It is kind of a neat piece. We've got this flush fitting bayonet that, by activating this button here, swings free and snaps out for your stabby needs. You'll notice there's a metal on the front part of the handguard. We'll get into why a little later. It's got kind of a heavy duty lacquer on it. Then we go to our traditional wood topped handguard. The sights are graduated in meters out to 900, maybe 1,000 if you want to go past that. It is semi-automatic. You do have a detachable 10-round magazine, though it was meant to be fed from stripper clips through the top. Magazine's removable just for maintenance purposes. And you notice we've got a mix again of that naked steel and painted. Stock has a cool color to it. And inside here, if you push down hard enough, the butt plate pivots off, and there's a couple holes, and the cleaning kit's actually still in there. The original, it's wedged in deep and firmly. I was unable to get it out of mine. Yes, we've already had this to the range to shoot it, but that's just because I was excited. I'll show you how this thing comes apart and the inner workings of it next as we take a look inside the gun. So you can see we have our safety on here, locks up the trigger, but the action still can cycle. I'm going to pull the magazine out. There's our 10-round box magazine. There are still spares available, but like I said, this is not meant to be a quick mag change gun. It's meant to be a stripper clip gun. Magazine's inserted sort of with the rock and lock style like you'd expect from an AK, guns of that era. With the safety forward, give you an idea of the trigger pull. That's it. It's right there at the wall. Little take up. There's your break. So pretty darn quick and easy to do quickly. What I think makes this gun really cool is the operating system is different than anything I've ever had before. And I'll show you how. So the handguard, if you pinch these tabs on both sides, handguard comes off, and you can see we've got some heat shielding on the underside there and some cooked wood on that part. The way this thing works is the gas system's up here. It pushes this puck, which is on a spring, and that pushes this plate, pushing a kicker back here in the chamber, which is on a spring. See those teeth coming out? That's what activates on the bolt, and the kicker itself is spring loaded. Show you what I mean. I'll remove this plate and get it to come off. There we go. With the plate out, I can pull the kicker forward. You can see those teeth there and that spring. Now these guns do come heavily greased for their protection. We spent a good Friday night getting in there and cleaning up as much as we could, scooping out fingerfuls of the stuff. So just fair warning, you're going to want to go through that before you take this out to the range, but overall in good condition. Let our bolt go forward to show you the inner workings back here. If you pull forward on this rear part of the cover, you can get access to the spring. What I've found is easiest to do is you come forward and there's kind of a spot where it unseats. But before doing that, unseat the spring from the hook here. I don't know if it's gonna let me do it. There we go. And I'm gonna rest the spring back in its detent spot just for the purpose of showing you the action. Here's our steel cover. Interesting kind of lacquer on there. So you see the kicker unlocks things. Ooh, that is tough to do manually. There we go. Unlocks things, and the momentum is what continues your action to the rear and back. Getting this thing undone, this spring is under a lot of pressure and it wants to kink and fly out. So you want to make sure you hold on to it like that. Then getting your bolt out, come back, and there's kind of a spot along here where it tilts and just rolls out. We've got a spring-loaded ejector. Here's our firing pin. The ejector's down below here that hits on the bottom. Let's see if I can get a good clear camera shot on there for you. So if I reach down below, that's what does our ejection. And we did notice when firing this that the last round out of the magazine doesn't get quite the same propellant in flying out of there like the rest of them do. Probably because there's not as much bolt movement because the bolt's stopping. But it is a tilting bolt. See how that popped down when it came back? And if I can get everything lined up again, there we go, lock it in and forward. There are excellent videos on the web that will show you how to take care of all that. I'm not going to try to replicate them. They're what we used. Just keep in mind they are a bit old, but neat mechanism here. That's your big old giant hammer that definitely is a surefire way to set off the primer. We didn't have any issues using the old military surplus ammo that we got our hands on. It was loaded in 1954 and still fired great. Just wanted to give you a close-up look at this right quick before you see the shooting impressions so you have a better understanding of how this thing works. Getting it back in, same thing, you kind of tilt it and it'll find a spot, slide forward. Now for the not so fun part is feeding this spring in without kinking it. It seems to be somewhat kink resistant, if you will, compared to others out there, but you gotta get it. There we go. Into its home on both ends, I find to be the safest bet. And then I'm going to hook this back over the back end here so that I've got the spring captured. Come on. Now come forward with the cover pressing down, and it kind of finds its home Now everything's back together and functioning again. Very, very neat piece. Certainly something different. We had much more attention at the range than normal while operating this thing, and we got some pretty cool slow motion showing you how the action functions. So you'll see that in the shooting impressions video. Keep an eye out for that. These things are not the most common. Like I said, as far as I know, they were only produced in Czechoslovakia and for those 5 years. Some of them were rechambered later on, but a neat piece of history. And well, milsurp guns are how I got my start. So I really appreciate the good folks at Classic Firearms for continuing to find things like these and make them available for those of us that are nerds on the actions. This action system, I think, is very cool. Everything stayed very clean. There was very limited gas coming out back here. Very cool operating system. My guess is it didn't catch on or stay put because it requires more machining and it's more expensive to make than some of the other systems. But like I said, watch in that shooting impressions video. You'll see slow-mo footage of how much gas is going out the front end versus back here and how this whole thing operates. You'll also see Tia's impressions and our 50 and 100 yard groups using 1954 military surplus ammunition. Let me know if you've had experience with these, learned any tricks, etc., or any questions you've got. And if you're interested, I highly suggest heading over to Classic Firearms and picking one of these up while they're still available. That's the thing with military surplus. Yeah, they're beat up old guns, but they're cool, and there's only so many of them. Thanks for watching.